Hey, welcome into the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely, feverishly getting ready for the show that has just started. We'll be here with you for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics, and excited to do so. Wade, what's up?
What is up, Mo? Good to be with you and good to see everybody. Good to hop in for another couple hours here, kickstart the week. A lot to tap into. Had a good weekend and kind of pumped to kind of dive into everything. We got a big show on tap this afternoon.
We do indeed. Happy Mother's Day. A little late, but got to hang out with mine. Wade, I'm sure you got to hang out with yours for a little bit yesterday. So yeah, all is good. We are excited to be back from sun duties and hanging out talking sports. In the next hour, we will be joined by Willie G. Ramirez, our man in Vegas, as we talk a little WNBA. The regular season gets ready to get started this weekend, so fired up about that. Willie will give us some intel on the Aces and everybody else, including the expansion team, the Golden State Valkyries. So excited to talk to Willie in the next hour. In the next segment, we will check in with Jim DERRY down in NOLA. He hosts the DATTITUDE podcast for the New Orleans TIMES-PICAYUNE. And as mesmerized as we have been by the quarterback situation in Cleveland, New Orleans has got a little more intriguing, I guess, with an announcement over the weekend. Apparently, Derek Carr is retiring. So, and I don't know that they've got a QB1 on their roster. So we're going to talk to Jim DERRY and see what that looks like down there as they try to get ready to compete in the NFC South this season. So looking forward to talking to Jim, looking forward to talking to Willie. Also, we'll talk a little college softball, a little Major League Baseball, some playoffs, both NHL and NBA, and whatever else we can come up with here over the next couple of hours. But it's going to be fun, and we're looking forward to it. Wade, where'd you take your mom yesterday?
Let's see. Did Mother's Day really Saturday for Mama Neely in P-Town, but then hung out with her a little yesterday as well. And then went out to dinner with the mother-in-law last night. So double dose of mom duty, and everybody was happy. Everybody was good. And it was really a solid weekend, top to bottom, I think. You took care of business as well, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And you hit on it. Everybody was happy. So as long as that's the takeaway, it's all good. So big weekend, ready to get back into it. Let's get started here with this weekend's results and today's schedule on the Rundown.
This is the Rundown.
The Rundown, you've come to the right spot, boys and girls. But before we get into the Monday Rundown, we want to remind you that it is brought to you each and every single Monday by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education right here in Murray County. So give them a call today at 931-388-5831, or you can visit them online at zioneagles.org and schedule an appointment today. That's Zion Christian Academy, prepared for college, equipped for purpose.
High school baseball on Friday. Blackman doubled up Wilson Central 2-1. It was Clarksville with a 7-3 win over Henry County. Columbia Central defeated Nolensville 2-1. Rossview with a 15-3 win over Dixon County. Eagleville down Hampshire 11-3. East Robertson with a 13-3 win over Pickett County. Forest blanked Summertown 6-0. Gordonsville with a 10-0 win over Joe Burns. It was Green Hill 7, Hillsboro 1. Green Hill 7, Hillsboro in Green Hills 1. Beach 9, Overton 0. Lawrence County with a 9-5 victory over Stone Memorial. White House with a 4-1 win over Lawson. Lincoln County doubled up Independence 2-1. Another pitcher's duel. Here's another one. Montgomery Bell Academy 1, Memphis University School 0. Richland with a 4-0 win over Moore County. It was Station Camp 15, Martin Luther King 5. Siegel with an 11-0 victory over Stewart's Creek, and Liberty Creek edged Watertown 2-1.
Other games that were played on Friday, we start with softball as Wilson Central defeated Cookeville 7-1. Richland with 2 wins, starting the day with an 18-2 win versus Santa Fe, following up with an 18 win versus host Cornersville on Friday night. If you thought Richland's 2 wins were nice, Lawrence County said, let me one-up you one time. They got not 1, not 2, but 3 victories to win their district tournament, 7-6 over Tullahoma, setting up a championship showdown. They take the first one versus Marshall County 4-2. And 8 hours after they arrived in Lewisburg, they knock off the Tigrettes 11-7. So props to the Lady Wildcats of Lawrence County. Their first region appearance since like 2017. So a big shout out to them. Boys soccer
definitely earned it.
Yeah, absolutely. First game was at 4. Watched some of the very, very end of it, and last pitch was at about 11 o'clock. So if you stayed the whole time, props to you for doing that. Good win for the Lady Wildcats. Boys soccer Friday, it was Forest defeating Community 3-2. Major League Baseball from Friday, the Pirates defeat the Braves 3-2. The Astros defeat the Reds 3-0. The Sounds, speaking of shutouts, knock off Norfolk on Friday night. That final score was 4-0.
Saturday baseball, Blackman with a 3-2 win over Siegel. Stewart's Creek eliminated Wilson Central 1-0, and then Siegel down Stewart's Creek 6-3. Clarksville with a 13-3 win over Rossview. It was East Robertson 15, Gordonsville 4. Grace Christian of Knoxville defeated Davidson Academy 6-2. Beach 13, Green Hill 3. Overton with a 10-6 win over Hillsborough, and then Green Hill eliminated Overton 4-1. Columbia Central with a 5-2 victory over Lincoln County. That won the region for Columbia Central Lions. Congratulations to them. Independence 10-2 over Nolensville, and then advanced with an 11-0 win over Lincoln County. Eagleville downs Richland 13-5. Moore County defeats Hampshire 5-0, and then Moore County defeats Richland in a battle of Raiders 8-1. Summertown with a 5-0 victory over Community. It was Tullahoma 10, Lawrence County nothing, and Upperman 3, Lawrence County nothing.
Let's go to Saturday softball, where Richland, after winning 2 games on Friday, stormed right back into Cornersville and took care of business with a 14-4 win over the Bulldogs. Good win for the Lady Raiders. They are your District 10A tournament champs. Davidson Academy 13-9 over Grace Christian Knoxville on Saturday. Other scores were Columbia Academy 5, St. George's 1, and Stewart's Creek took care of Blackman 7-2. You can read more about this game at mainstreetmurray.com. But in the TSIAA championship, it was Zion Christian all over Clarksville Christian. 9-0 was your final score there. Major League Soccer.
Hey, hold up. Just for the record, it was 10-0. So
10-0. There you go. Let's not shortchange them runs there. The ladies in the lineup want their props. Good 10-0 win for Zion Christian there. MLS action, Nashville defeating Charlotte with a 2-1 score at Geodis Park. MLB, it was the Atlanta Braves knocking off the Pittsburgh Pirates 3-2. That game was in 11 innings. The Reds defeat the Astros 13-9 on Saturday. Norfolk with a 4-1 win versus the Sounds. While I got you guys, while we're talking baseball, I'll roll you into Sunday. The Pirates defeat the Braves 4-3. Astros top the Reds 6-0. The Sounds in the series with a nice win. They defeat Norfolk. Final score 7-2.
Softball action this evening. We've got sometimes, we're missing others. But at 5:30, East Robertson goes to Gordonsville. Good luck, Lady Indians, with that one. Monterey is at Liberty Creek. That's also a 5:30 start. At 6, Wilson Central goes to Oakland. Coffee County hosts Nolensville at 6:30. Also at 6:30, and you can hear this one on Pulaski Citizen Live. Huntland travels to Linville, taking on the Richland Lady Raiders. Also at 6:30, Cornersville is at Eagleville. Times unknown to us for Huntington at Cheatham County, Station Camp at Creekwood, McGavock at Green Hill, Rossview going to Henry County, Clay County is at Joe Burns, Mount Juliet travels to Overton, Dixon County is at Kirkwood, Stone Memorial, goodness gracious, they get the Road Warrior Award. Stone Memorial is at Lawrence County this evening. Lincoln County goes to Page, Forest is at Summertown, and Trousdale County plays at Watertown. Major League Baseball action this evening at 6:15. You can see it on FanDuel Sports. The Washington Nationals come to Truist Park, to take on the Atlanta Braves. Again, that's a 6:15 start on FanDuel. And at 7:10, Kansas City opens a series in Houston against the Astros. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. And your top story brought to you, as always, the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. The SEC softball tournament was supposed to culminate on Saturday with a championship game between Texas A&M and Oklahoma. The top two seeds have made their way to the finals, and then Mother Nature said, nah, we're going to shut this down. And the championship game was not played. Texas A&M and Oklahoma were declared co-champs. Much to the consternation of the socials all over the place, but, you know, both coaches seemed to be okay with it. Didn't hear a whole lot out of them, but they tried all day to get it in. It was scheduled for 4 o'clock Central Time. They tried to move it up to noon initially. Rain started Saturday morning and basically never let up. So Oklahoma got the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament because they won the regular season. Obviously, it wasn't as if neither of these teams was going to get in without a victory. And sure enough, when the NCAA tournament bracket was announced yesterday, Texas A&M, despite not being the automatic out of the SEC, is your number one national seed. So nobody hurt. Move along. Nothing to see here, basically. But it's a little ironic, I think, that in the first year that Texas and Oklahoma are in the Southeastern Conference, there's no championship in softball.
Yeah, first time in SEC tournament history that the championship game was not played. And you kind of summed it up best when you said neither team really had a lot to gain from this. You know, Marin had told us last week that if Missouri, you know, had somehow made it, that was the only way they could probably get in. So we're not talking about, you know, a team's postseason fate hanging in the balance. We're really not even talking about major seeding implications, a little bit at play. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I found it a little shocking just because, the SEC loves a good payday just as much as anybody. And it feels like turning down a little extra TV rev, turning down a little extra ratings. I was kind of surprised by that. But, I mean, when the coaches kind of get together and make the call, and you know as well as I do, sometimes it feels like the coaches call the shots in the spring sports when it comes to weather. And
yeah,
if they were okay with it, I mean, I kind of see it. But it was kind of a little odd that we didn't get it played. And it would have been a great game.
It's very odd. I mean, it feels like you could have pushed it back into Sunday, but maybe – I don't know what the weather was supposed to be like in Athens the rest of the weekend. Maybe they just felt like they were fighting a losing battle and just get everybody out of there and get them home and get them ready for the NCAA tournament announcement. So that's the way it ultimately played out. And as it turns out, the SEC, despite not having the championship game, pretty well dominated the NCAA tournament field. 9 regional hosts, 14 teams in the field total. That's a field of 64, the most by any one conference ever. So, again, everybody got in except Missouri, as Marin had told us would be the case. So, A&M's the 1, Oklahoma is the 2, and Florida is the number 3 national seed. Where is Tennessee, you ask? The Vols, who went 1 and done, falling to Arkansas, are the number 7 national seed. They've got Miami of Ohio in their opener on Friday. On the other side, it's North Carolina and Ohio State. So, again, 9 regional hosts, 14 teams total, and 2, 3, 4. Arkansas is a 4 seed. 5, 6, 7 of your 8 national seeds are from the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, not really a shock there. They've been the best all season, especially when you factor in Texas and Oklahoma in the mix. That was kind of those were the two other kind of heavyweights that were the opposition, if you will, for the SEC in years past. But now just come on over. The grass is greener on this side, so kind of not surprised there. And normally I would kind of go contrarian and say, kind of like in basketball, I thought maybe there was a chance somebody else would maybe make a run and win this thing, but it doesn't feel like that on the softball side of things. It feels like we are almost destined to see one of these teams. Don't necessarily know who. That will make it a lot of fun to watch, but it feels like an SEC team definitely will be at least represented in the championship game and most likely going to win it.
Some history made here in Nashville this weekend as Belmont defeated Southern Illinois 6-2 in the Missouri Valley Finals. Excuse me, out in Des Moines. Belmont making its first ever NCAA tournament appearance. They will go to the Tuscaloosa Regional as the number 3 seed down there. They'll take on Virginia Tech Friday afternoon. It's Alabama and number 4 seed Jackson State in the other game on Friday. So again, congratulations to the Bruins, your Missouri Valley Conference tournament champion. They go into postseason play 40-14, led by conference pitcher of the year Maya Johnson and freshman of the year Riley Spindler. So Belmont and Tennessee carrying the hopes of the state into NCAA softball tournament play. Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna. But while we're talking softball, I failed to put this in the rundown, so I apologize. But a quick shout out to the UT Southern softball team. They opened up their NAIA tournament today, and they got a 4-0 win. Nice way to start their regional up in Missouri on the campus of Central Methodist. So with that win, they're going to play another one later tonight versus, I believe, LSU Alexandria. And we'll just kind of see how the chips fall. But a 4-0 win to get things kickstarted for a team making their first trip since 2016. Props to the Firehawks.
No doubt. Great way to break a drought. Absolutely. Congrats to the Lady Firehawks. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we'll be joined by Jim DERRY of the DATTITUDE podcast, talking little Hoodats. Stick around.
Get ready, race fans. NASCAR is back in Music City with a new name, the Cracker Barrel 400. Guitars, fast cars, and the comfort of Cracker Barrel's country hospitality. May 30th through June 1st. The action kicks off Friday night at Nashville Superspeedway with the Rackley Roofing 200. Then the Tennessee Lottery 250 on Saturday. And Sunday night, NASCAR's top stars under the lights in the Cracker Barrel 400. Get your tickets now at NashvilleSuperspeedway.com.
Let us connect you with a team that you'll be bedazzled by when you connect with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Let's meet the team. This is Charles Calvert, known as One Take. He's the plumbing service manager. Here we have Matt Cook. He's known as Big Country. He's the HVAC service manager.
Hey! Visit Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning for all your needs.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
The Monday Mirror continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're pleased to have with us from the DATTITUDE podcast and the New Orleans Times-Picayune, Jim DERRY, talking a little Saints football because, well, first of all, Jim, good afternoon. Thanks for taking some time with us.
Good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me, gentlemen. And I heard all the softball talk. If you talk baseball, just remember who number one is right now in college baseball.
You've opened the can of worms. Continue. This is your 10 seconds of glory here.
Yeah, because the other team that I'm going to talk about today is on the opposite end of the
spectrum. Right.
The LSU Tigers are the number one team in college baseball as of this morning.
As of this morning, man. It'll be interesting to see how long that holds up, just because every SEC weekend is a different. It
seems like a different one.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But it's not a shock to see the Tigers up there, and their body of work certainly speaks well for them. That said, when you woke up Saturday morning, or when you went to bed Friday night, were you expecting to wake up to the news that Derek Carr was no longer a Saint, no longer an NFL player?
No, it's interesting because speaking of LSU baseball, LSU had a long rain delay Friday night, so they didn't start until about almost 10 o'clock Friday night. So right. I tried to stay up and watch the whole thing. I ended up falling asleep like end of the seventh inning or whatever, and I had to find out. But so I had play-by-play duties on Saturday afternoon. I was planning on sleeping in, and all of a sudden Saturday morning, my phone starts blowing up, and at first, when I first got the news, I thought it was a joke. The first thing I saw was someone had sent me a screenshot of a press release from the Saints, and I thought, well, there's no way. First of all, the Saints wouldn't be the first ones to release this because they're never the first ones to release anything. So I didn't think it was real. And then when I went further started diving into it, then other people started sending me screenshots from X and Ian Rappaport and the usual suspects, and then our own people at the Times-Picayune. So it became obvious in a matter of about 10 minutes that it was real. And so we had to do an emergency podcast, which, I think might be the first time in 4 years I did a Saturday podcast. But we did one live, and it ended up being the most watched show, I think, across all of our platforms that we ever had. And so, yes, to say that shock, surprise, whatever word you want to use, absolutely was the case. I was one of the lone, in fact, might have been the lone member in the local sports media here who thought that Derek Carr was actually going to come back to this team because of common sense, because the Saints said we're going to take a huge cap hit both this year and next year, $69 million of dead cap hit for 2026 had nothing been done. And so I was, common sense dictates that they're not going to just eat that. I know that they drafted Tyler Shuck. So, and then in hindsight, no one thought he was going to retire either. That was a shock to everyone. So in hindsight, the retirement part makes sense, especially that Derek Carr is going to eat some of that salary. He's going to take a $30 million hit of his own, and ended up doing the Saints a favor. Some Hoodats don't want to give him any credit for that, but he absolutely did the Saints a favor by basically eating $30 million and taking that off the table. And now the Saints are in a much better spot in 2026 and beyond. And as of now, will actually be in the black in 2027. So the rebuilding era has officially begun in New Orleans.
When you term it that way, maybe the Saints quarterback is on the roster then for the upcoming season?
I think that there's very little question at the moment. Again, I've been wrong about Derek Carr, so take this with whatever grain of salt you would like to use. But I think that Tyler Shuck is going to be the starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. I think most people at least around here would be surprised. Obviously, this talk that Spencer Rattler there's going to be a contest between he and Spencer Rattler. I don't believe that for 1 second. Spencer Rattler was drafted by Dennis Allen. Spencer Rattler went 0-6. He was drafted in the 5th round. He was not Kellen Moore's quarterback. So the only other option is to bring in a veteran. What veteran would you bring in? To me, there's only one veteran that's even worthy of starting possibility, and we don't need the circus of Aaron Rodgers here in New Orleans. Let's just say
Rodgers in New Orleans, man, that would be electric.
Absolutely not. I'd rather y'all trade us Will Levis. That's where I'm at right now. And so absolutely not on Aaron Rodgers. So with that being said, look, you bring in a rookie quarterback. A rookie coach and a rookie quarterback. I just think it's a weird combination. This team has rebuilt before. They had to rebuild out of the 2005 season, obviously, after Katrina, and we didn't even have we didn't have a home stadium to play in because the Superdome was destroyed, and it took a year to fix. But at least the difference with Sean Payton was he brought in Drew Brees, who had been a starter in the NFL for 4 years. So, I mean, you're comparing apples to oranges, and now you got Tyler Shuck coming in with a coach who is not even 40 years old yet. And so, man, it's tough as a Saints fan to be back in this situation. And, that's where we are. That's where Saints fans are right now. That's where we are in the media. We've covered last year was tough to cover. And I think this year, at least this year, if they go 5-12 again, or even worse, at least it's because of rebuilding, which they didn't want to accept last year, but doesn't make it any easier to cover that on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah, Jim, and you kind of used, shock, surprise. I think a lot of folks were taken by that. But consider New Orleans is such a rabid fan base, such an emotional city in general. What was kind of the overriding emotion? The guys, are they grateful? You kind of maybe said not so much to Carr. Have they bought into, that full rebuild mantra yet? I'm just curious the emotional status of New Orleans fans this morning.
You live anywhere between 80 and 100 miles of the city of New Orleans, you don't ever use grateful and Derek Carr in the same sentence. Okay. I've been called a Derek Carr apologist, a fan, whatever you want to call it, because I don't bash him. Okay. I'm not a fan of Derek Carr's. I mean, what he brought to the Saints was mediocrity. Let's be honest. I mean, it didn't end up working out. It wasn't the greatest signing that this team has ever made. Let's get real. But at the same time, I thought the criticism, the ridiculous criticism to some extent that he took throughout his tenure here was bordered on the absurd. But the overwhelming opinion of Saints fans, I'd say probably 80 to 90% of Saints fans was good riddance. They were dancing in the streets. They were dancing on Poydras Street on Saturday morning when they heard the news. They were dancing on my podcast. I had to eat a lot of crow. I don't know if you've been in New Orleans, but we have we call our sandwiches po' boys here. I had to eat a crow po' boy on Saturday morning. And I didn't even put any hot sauce on it. It went down not very smooth, but it was tough. But it is what it is. And I think, again, the majority of fans are glad he's gone. But now we'll see how glad they are when this team takes a sharp turn downward, because there's a long process. You got some aging veterans on this team this is a team that's not only rebuilding, but it's a team in transition. You got 3 or 4 guys that are going to be off the books after this year. It's probably the last year for Cameron Jordan, who's clearly an NFL Hall of Famer to be. Demario Davis, it's very likely his last year. Tyrann Mathieu, his contract runs after this year. So you're talking about players that are beloved to this franchise for quite a while now that are probably in their last year, and they're going to have to do it on a team whose over-under win total in Vegas right now is 5.5.
Jim Derry of the Dattitude podcast joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And Jim, you mentioned, rookie coach, rookie quarterback, and I hadn't really thought about the rookie coach aspect of this, but, there are those that are espousing the Rodgers to New Orleans type scenario, and I don't know if they're folks that are trying to get Aaron paid or trying to up the ante in Pittsburgh or what the situation is, but I think you made a very good point. If you are a rookie coach like Kellen Moore, that's not how you want to start your career.
No, not at all. And look, I think that this team needs to bring in a veteran quarterback. There aren't a lot of veteran quarterbacks out there. I think you guys know Ryan Tannehill very well. I think he would fit in great here in New Orleans, not to start, but to help shape either Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler, whoever the starting quarterback of this team may be, to have that veteran, that 37-year-old who's run through the gauntlet, who's been made a run in the playoffs at some point. I think he would be a fantastic addition to this team. And he's also a guy, I think, at his age and where he is in his career, would would be okay with the fact that he's a backup, even to a rookie. That's why I think he would fit over someone like Carson Wentz, who maybe hasn't done it and probably isn't at that point, probably isn't ready to accept that he can't be a starter again, even though we all know that he's probably not going to be a starter again. So I think the Saints need to add someone like that. We'll see who it is. There's talk of Teddy Bridgewater if he wanted to. He's obviously a former Saint. Went to Louisville, obviously would fit in with Tyler Shuck and come in and fit here. But if he even wants to do that, he's obviously had success coaching high school football. He had his choice. He and Dan Campbell, I was joking this morning, probably like blood brothers. Probably would much rather go to Detroit, where he has a chance to win a ring, than come back here to New Orleans. So there are some options, but I just think this team needs to have a veteran quarterback. And look, Ryan Tannehill and Kellen Moore are about the same age. I think Tannehill's 1 year younger. So that would also be an interesting fit as well. But I think that they probably will add a veteran quarterback. But I don't think there's any doubt that when you're looking at the start, September 7th, 2025, my gut, my instinct, common sense says that there's about an 80% chance that it will be Tyler Shuck as the starting quarterback for this team.
For all of the reasons you just laid out, plus the fact that he's in Atlanta right now, I guess Kirk Cousins isn't it.
You know, Kirk Cousins, I probably would remind a lot of people of Derek Carr, right? I mean, I think they're very similar quarterbacks. They've had very similar results throughout their career. Neither one has done much in the playoffs. Both put up some decent numbers as quarterbacks in the regular season, but neither has done much as far as, their win-loss total. So I just don't, the only thing I would say is if they even wanted to entertain Kirk Cousins, they'd probably get him for a song, considering that he's going to have to be I would imagine, be a June 1 casualty by the Falcons. And if you're looking for someone who wants to stick it to our most hated rival, he would fit in that as well. But I don't think you want to bring in a Kirk Cousins who, again, you're talking about if you're rebuilding and you go draft a Tyler Shuck who's 26. He's no young rookie, by the way.
Right.
He's 26. I mean, so you're not going to bring in a 26-year-old rookie to sit around here very long. Bringing in Kirk Cousins means you probably want to start Kirk Cousins. And I just think that Kellen Moore, they went out and, look, he got his man. He's going to get a chance to start with his man, and Kirk Cousins just doesn't fit that bill. That's why Tannehill would be a better fit, or someone like Tannehill would be a better fit. And, you go get your man, start your man, and you live and die by whatever happens after that.
Two quick ones, Jim. First one is, with this news with Carr stepping away, how nice would that have been to know? Would that have altered their strategy in the offseason dramatically in your mind?
Well, I'm just going to tell you what I talked about on our part of our podcast this morning. And we call Mondays Mono E Monday, and it's just, we don't have any guests. It's just me and the commenters, and the commenters fill up the show. And we spent an hour and a half talking back and forth this morning. One of the big problems that I have is not just that this happened, but the timing of it. And I don't believe there are a lot of coincidences in this world. There are some, but let's just say, I'll just put it out there, and people can take this for whatever they want. The second and final installment of season ticket payments was due on Friday. Is it a coincidence that they announced Derek Carr's retirement first thing Saturday morning? Which, could you think of a weirder time to announce a retirement? Maybe Sunday morning. No. But I can't think of a more weird time to announce a retirement than on a Saturday morning before I even got up. And my kid, it's not like I'm sleeping in late on a Saturday morning, especially with something to do. So I just find that super strange. If you want to call it a coincidence, call it whatever you will. But I think it's odd.
A little voodoo, perhaps, at play there. Second question, though. You talked about the roster, and you're in rebuilding mode, and it seems like there's two ways to rebuild. You just kind of accept your reality and go with what you got, or are there any tradable assets? I've heard even, Olave's name thrown around as maybe perhaps their most tradable asset. I'm just curious, is that the approach they might take, just really stripping this thing all the way down and then rebuilding?
A couple of different things to look at here in the potential. Look, I'm never one, and I've said this for years. I'm never one. I'm never of the opinion to lose on purpose. I think you do everything you can to win. I think losing on purpose does nothing but make you a loser. If you get that first pick, as you guys have seen, or doesn't even have to be a first pick. It could be a high pick. You have to assume you're putting all this faith on this administration that we've all been critical of here in New Orleans, that they're going to get it right. So if you lose on purpose and you go the route of straight rebuild, then you're assuming that you're putting a lot of onus on Mickey Loomis and company that the general manager and the rest of his administrative staff here is going to get it right in the draft. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But you talk about trade possibilities. I don't think there are many. This team, again, we've talked about, you all know about the dire straits that they've been in cap. Maybe you could trade someone like an Alvin Kamara who just signed a 2-year deal. I think that would be heartbreaking for a lot of people here in New Orleans who obviously if you wanted to pick the 2 most endearing members of this football team or 3, you could put them in any order you want. And I don't think you would be wrong when you said Cameron Jordan, Alvin Kamara, and Taysom Hill. And Taysom Hill, there's a decent chance I think he retires too because of the brutal knee injury that he suffered at the end of last year, and he may never play football again. So, but Alvin Kamara just signed a 2-year deal. He is starting that a 2-year extension right now, $10 million a year. I think there's a chance that the Saints could move on from him. Whether they would get anything for him, no, but you'd probably clear another $10 million off the books for 2026. And then you talk about Chris Olave. What are you going to get for a guy who's 4 times concussed and maybe is 1 big hit away from the end of his career? So I just don't know what you would get for a Chris Olave. You're probably better served to try to use him as your number 1 receiver.
I don't know that you would get a ton, but that was kind of when me and some friends were talking about that this weekend. That was the only name or 2 work, Kamara and Olave. I mean, really the assets to trade are kind of not there. That's why I was curious. And it seems like, that may not be the approach they will take.
Yeah, and the other guys that you have that might even be tradable, you're not really going to want to trade because they're young guys. I mean, you're not going to want to go trade guys that are still working off their rookie contracts or guys that you're laying the foundation. You're trying to set a foundation for this team for the future. And the Saints are in a weird place to where they have guys that are either like 21, 22, 23 years old, or they got guys that are like 34, 35, 36 years old. There aren't a lot of 29-year-old dudes on this team. There aren't a lot of 30-year-old dudes on this team. And, you just lost Ryan Ramczyk, your starting right tackle, who had to retire because of his injury. So, look, this team is just in a weird place right now. I think I hate to say, you're not losing on purpose, but it is a full rebuilding situation now that Derek Carr is retired, and you accept it. You don't accept losing. You try to do whatever you can to win. Maybe the Saints are going to have a quote unquote easy schedule. Not that there's a such thing. We'll get the schedule released on Wednesday. The Saints will have the second easiest schedule in the NFL if you go by winning percentage from last year, but they've had easy schedule the past 3 years and haven't been able to do anything with it. So look, we've seen Sean Payton come in here in 2006 and be able to win right off the bat. Took him to the NFC Championship in his first season after they went 3-13 in 2005. But again, there's no Drew Brees here. Drew Brees is gone. He's never coming back. So this is a completely different situation. But hey, you never know. You start off with a couple wins. Maybe that turns into a few more. If you want to have hope, we'll see.
Jim, what is it that the Saints have seen out of Shuck that makes him their guy?
That made him their guy. That is the $64,000 question. I have never look, I guess the way that we're putting it here on the show is that we're trusting that Kellen Moore sees something in him that fits whatever mold that he's looking to fit. I was of the ilk going into this draft. There wasn't a single, even Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward, to me, is the only quarterback in this entire draft that I think that has real potential to be a long-term NFL starter. Okay, and even him, I'm not so sure. This is the weakest quarterback draft that we've seen in quite a long time. And I just thought the Saints were in a position to where they were going to wait. But maybe they realized they knew more about Carr than they were leading on. Obviously, we talked about the date and why they waited to announce Carr's retirement. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe it didn't. But so going to this draft, and then I think they tried reading through the tea leaves and the comments. I think they tried to do what the Giants did. I think Jackson Dart was probably their first choice. He probably fit whatever system Kellen Moore is looking to fit, probably number 1. And then the Giants jumped them. I think the Saints were probably looking to get back in the bottom of the first round and go get Jackson Dart. And to their credit, at least, they waited till 40. I think they could have got Shuck in the third round. But to answer my long-winded answer to your question is, I don't quite know what it is about Tyler Shuck that they see that kind of fits the bill. Because if you just look at what he's done, He's not overly mobile. He's mobile. He's more mobile than Shedeur Sanders, but he's not overly mobile. He's less accurate than Shedeur Sanders. So there's a lots of things that lead me to wonder why someone, he's injury prone. And
he's 26 years old.
And he's 26 years old. Exactly. People hate when you say injury prone. By the way, coaches hate that. Players hate that. But it's true. I mean, you know what they call guys who have been in college for 7 years? They call them doctors, not quarterbacks. And so,
lots of people went to school for 7 years. Tommy Boy, right? Yeah, the doctors, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I went to school for 7 years. I'm not a doctor. You're either a doctor or a dummy. I think if you go to college for 7 years. I've been the dummy category. Okay, but somehow I'm still here and I'm on the air. But I don't know. Look, I'm going to trust in Kellen Moore, and I think Saints fans probably should trust in Kellen Moore for now. But I don't know how long today's show is basically how long does the honeymoon period last? And I don't know the answer to that because Saints fans are as fickle as any other fans in the NFL.
They're not just fickle, but they're also passionate, and I'm not sure that they can really wrap their minds around rebuild, Jim. No matter how much that's the case.
Yeah, because the younger Saints fan has been spoiled. The younger Saints fan doesn't remember what it was like post Sean Payton and post Drew. I'm old. I remember the 70s. I remember the bags on the head in 1980. I remember the 1-15. I remember the Mike Ditka days and Ditka going 3-13 in that last year and the Saints trading their entire draft for Ricky Williams and all of those things. I remember all that. I don't want to go back to those days. It's no fun covering those teams. I've been in this business here in New Orleans since 1990. And I don't want to go back to those days of the first decade of my existence in this business were miserable when talking about the New Orleans Saints. Well, not all of them. Some of the Jim Moore days were good, but they didn't win a playoff game until 2000. So, do you want to see that again? No, the younger fan is spoiled, but I think I got to be honest. I think there's a long road ahead for this team. I don't see any quick way out. If Tyler Shuck turns out to be a great quarterback, great. I'll be wrong. It'll be wonderful. But again, still got a lot of old vets to clear out, got a lot of holes to fill. And, bringing in Kelvin Banks and bringing in Tyler Shuck are not the only holes for this team. They're going to have to figure it out in a hurry.
Jim, get you some remoulade and see how that goes on that Crow Po' Boy.
I tried to put a little Louisiana hot sauce on it, but I couldn't find the bottle anywhere. So I just had to eat it.
Props to you for doing that.
Absolutely. Jim Derry of the Dattitude podcast and the New Orleans Times-Picayune joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Jim, we really appreciate you taking some time with us. Congrats to the Tigers. And who they got this weekend?
We got one winner. You know what? I haven't had a chance. I think Florida. I think they go to Florida. If I remember correctly. I think they go to Florida before we get to the SEC tournament next weekend. So we'll see how it goes. Look, I'll tell you this. Watching this team is a lot more fun than watching the football team, at least for me.
I understand.
We also have a team, by the way, LSU Shreveport did a little story this morning. LSU Shreveport, NAIA, they're opening their regionals. 51-0. You ever heard of such a thing? LSU Shreveport entering the NAIA regionals at 51-0. We had Coach Brad Neffendorf on our show as well. So that's
a lot of dubs.
Oh, that is a lot of dubs.
I mean, if you win it all, you're like 64-0 or something crazy at that point.
Exactly. I mean, so we'll see. I never heard of 50. I mean, just an error here or an error there. I don't even know how that's possible, but they did it. So we do have some winners in Louisiana. You gotta dig through the weeds sometimes, but they're in there somewhere.
Hey man, we appreciate you. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Anytime, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's take a break here on the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports today. When we continue after this break, we will talk a little baseball. Stick around.
If you want the latest in weather conditions, be sure to tune in to our Busy Bee Plumbing weather report each weekday on Mornings on Main Street. Brought to you, of course, by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating and Air Conditioning. We will keep you updated on the latest conditions outside, like severe weather, heat, snow, rain, and even hail.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
As the St. Louis Cardinals debuted their new home, the Civic Center Bush Memorial Stadium, the Atlanta Braves tried to spoil the party. The Cards scored in the bottom of the ninth to force extra innings, though, and Lou Brock drove in Kurt Flood with the game winner as the hosts won 4-3 in 12th. Atlanta overcame a 2-run deficit, went up 3-2 on Felipe Alou's eighth-inning lead-up home run, but Billy O'Dell gave up a game-tying base hit before Phil Niekro took the loss in extras. That was this day in Braves history. No extras on Sunday, no new parks, but Pittsburgh pulls out a 4-3 victory over the Braves to take that series at PNC Park 2-1. That's Pittsburgh, who came into the series at 12-26 and playing their first games under new manager Don Kelly after the previous manager, Derek Shelton, had been fired on Thursday. So things aren't great for the Braves. Maybe
maybe a little new manager bump, I guess, for Pittsburgh. Skeens didn't even pitch in this series, right?
No, he did not. But the Braves made Bailey Falter look like Skeens on Friday in a 3-2 loss. They came back and won 3-2 in 11 on Saturday, as we mentioned on the rundown, but couldn't get much going yesterday against a guy whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Got 3 runs in the 8th to tie the game on a Sean Murphy pinch hit double, and then they hit a couple of balls that I don't think either of them's exit velocity was more than 65, but it was enough to get the game-winning run home off of Raziel Iglesias, whose struggles out of the closer role continue, making me want to check on Craig Kimbrell down at Gwinnett and see how he's coming along. I mean, I don't know how much longer you can continue to go with Iggy in the closer role, getting the results that you're getting. I think he's already given up 6 home runs. Now, again, no balls were hit hard off of him yesterday, but it was kind of a death by 1,000 cuts thing, but it was really hard to watch. And, at this point, you're just kind of waiting on him to give up the long ball, so that's never fun either. So, yeah. Again, Atlanta falls to 19-21 with the loss yesterday. Again, 2 games out of 500. The Braves are now 0-5 in games where they could have gotten to 500 on the season.
It's like an old
5-0 in extra innings.
2 sides of a coin, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It's like an old WWF ladder match where, you're reaching toward it and the belt is in your grasp and then somebody just comes in and knocks the ladder over. Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels style, and you're just so close, but they haven't been able to get there just yet.
Yeah. Help might be arriving as soon as the end of the week. Spencer Strider threw a couple of bullpens in Pittsburgh and said, I'm good to go. could get activated as soon as the Boston series this weekend, or they could send him out for rehab because they've had so many games in a row. I think they're going to have 17 games before they have an off day next Monday, I think. And they're really concerned about bringing him back and him possibly pitching a short start and putting that bullpen at even greater risk and stretching them out a little bit. So he may or may not make a rehab start somewhere before he returns to the major league rotation. But, you know, it is encouraging to know that he is ready. Now, there's still a DH, so it's not like he gets to hit. And right now, the offense is the biggest struggle for the Braves. But if pitching can keep it close, I guess every little bit helps. I don't know. It is so frustrating for a team that wasn't supposed to be like this.
Yeah, and man, baseball is a weird sport because, like I've said it a couple times, you get in kind of hypnotized a little bit by the fact that it is such a long season, but then it feels like you just glance up and you're like, holy smokes, we're 2 months in and this is our record, or holy smokes, we're 10 games over 500. I mean, and this team was unexpectedly pulling something off. It kind of puts you in a little bit of a trance because the season is so long, but then you glance up and you're like, holy cow. And man, they desperately need some good vibes, as we talked about. They got some big series looming. So they need to kind of right the ship immediately.
Yeah, and, you know, we talked about going to Colorado and needing to take care of business out there, and they did get 2 of 3, but you really kind of feel like they should have swept those guys. More on the Rockies in a second, by the way. You know, you go to Pittsburgh thinking, well, they're in a little bit of disarray. They just fired their manager. Maybe we can get 3. No, you barely got 1. Had to go to extra innings to get that. So now you got the Nationals coming in. They are 17-24 coming into tonight's action at Truist Park. Jake Irvin getting the start for the Nats, 2-1 with a 3.94 ERA. And I said the last time Grant Holmes went out that he typically does a pretty good job of keeping us in ball games. Well, that wasn't the case in his last start, and now he's 2-3 with a 4.58. So it's that box of chocolates thing. You don't know what you're going to get, but the Braves and the Nats will get it on at 6:15 tonight at Truist Park. Again, you can see that one on FanDuel Sports. Houston with a 6-0 win over Cincinnati on Sunday, giving them the series. They won 2 of 3, and they moved a game over 500 at 20-19 with that victory. Nice weekend for the Astros.
Yeah, the little engine that could. They somehow, some way scrapped and clawed. Like I said, it was like 2 Rams with just they hadn't got their horns fully developed yet, but they end up winning a battle and got a nice win on Sunday too. Like you said, kind of really put a stamp on. That could have been an ugly, kind of demoralizing series. They're going to do this all year. They're going to give you just enough of a little bit of hope, but I feel like it's still probably fool's gold until they really maybe catch fire or get on a heater. But as I say that, I mean, Mariners kind of have struggled a little bit, so Houston's only 2 games back. I don't know. They have done this before. Last year in particular, they just absolutely went nuclear in either the month of July or August. And so it might be too late to turn on the switch this year if you're going to make that kind of run. But if they could just keep plodding along, they may not be in bad shape.
Yeah. They've got a nice series coming up here as Kansas City comes to town. The Royals 24-18. Michael Walker takes the mound for the visitors. 2-4, but a 2.98 ERA. That's one of those show your work kind of things. It's tough to kind of make those numbers line up. 2-4 and a sub-3 ERA. Ryan Gusto 3-1 with a 2.93 gets the ball for Houston. This one should be interesting. And I mean, you don't see a couple of sub-3 ERAs starting against each other in a Major League Baseball game very often these days.
Which means take the over.
That makes perfectly good sense.
That's how these things go. I don't know what the total is, but I would be glancing over. Just the way the universe seems to kind of work sometimes.
We were talking about Colorado. the Rockies won yesterday.
Epic bounce back.
Yeah, they defeated San Diego, of all people, 9-3. And so at least Bud Black gets to go out with a decent taste in his mouth and a win over his former team. The Rockies pulled the plug on the Bud Black era yesterday after that victory that got the Rockies to 7-33, one of the worst starts, numerically speaking, ever. Their 6-33 start was the worst 39-game start in Major League Baseball history. They've been outscored by 128 runs. And they've just been bad in every possible way, basically. Black went 544 and 690 over his tenure. They've posted 6 straight losing seasons after going to the playoffs in his first 2 years. But it's interesting. Dave Roberts, the Dodgers manager, kind of took Rockies administration to task on this one. I don't think Casey Stengel could change the outcome. Now, Roberts and Black were together in San Diego. Black was the manager and Roberts was on his staff. I'm bummed. I'm disappointed. I don't think Casey Stengel could change the outcome of that ball club, and that's not the manager's fault. But obviously they felt they needed a change of voice or direction. And again, I much the same things as my reaction when Derek Shelton got gone at Pittsburgh late last week. I'm just not sure that either of these teams was built in such a way that you could expect anything other than this. So it's kind of tough, though. Because again,
on one hand, it's shocking, but on the other hand, you're wondering how in the heck does this not happen before? Because like you said, historical ineptitude. What I really want to know is how do you get beat 21-0 and you wait till the next game to fire him? I mean, if you're going to immediately fire somebody when you lose 21-0 like they did Saturday night, that's
I don't think anybody would argue with that.
Yeah, the timing felt a little off, but then again, maybe that's what inspired them to that 9-3 win yesterday. Maybe the guys in the clubhouse, win one for the Gipper type situation, but tough situation. Yeah. And whoever is managing that job, they're not set up for success by any stretch. No. And they got to play in the NL West just for good measure.
Exactly. As we mentioned in the rundown again, the Sounds defeated Norfolk 7-2 yesterday over at First Horizon. Closed out the series against the Tides, winning it 4-2. They are off today before they start a series out at AutoZone Park in Memphis against the Redbirds tomorrow. So hopefully they can get some barbecue nachos while they're down at AutoZone and pick up a few victories as well. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as hour number 1 of the Monday Mirror comes to a close. When we come back, we'll talk some postseason play in the NHL and the NBA. Stick around. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, starts right now. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We are in the conference semifinal rounds for both the NHL and the NBA, and some of them are getting close to being over with. Perhaps not so much on the ice, but Dallas taking a 2-1 lead in its series with Winnipeg with a 5-2 victory last night. Florida evening things against Toronto with a 2-0 victory on the east side. Wade, thoughts about those two outcomes on the ice last night?
I'm still a little surprised. On one hand, I'm very surprised that the Panthers have rallied as nicely as they have. On the other hand, I'm not surprised because Tkachuk being back and they played so well with him kind of reinserted at the beginning of the postseason. But then, I was talking to my good friend, friend of the show, Guy Schaefer. He's our Pulaski citizen photographer, longtime professor at UT Southern. He's a big Canadian. He roots kind of equally. He's a Canadiens fan, but he kind of roots for all the teams. Okay. A little cheap if you ask me. But I kind of casually pointed out to him, the Maple Leafs, remember, they had Ottawa in the first round. So these are their first 2 games on American soil. And like I said a couple times last week, come down to Florida and get you some, Maple Leafs. Not finding it so friendly down there. Meanwhile, the Stars, though, Rantanen continues to be, like I said, it will not take any sort of heat off of Nico Harrison. But the Stars bringing that guy in looks like one of the moves of the century in terms of the NHL right now. He had a couple of assists and a goal last night in that 5-2 victory. I will be very curious to see how those 2 series in particular kind of unfold over the next couple of nights.
I don't think anything's really going to take the heat off of Nico, and if it does, it's only going to be temporary. So we will continue to monitor that series as well. Tonight, you've got Washington going to Carolina. The host Hurricanes are up 2-1 and trying to even things up before they go back to Washington for game number 5. Carolina, again, been a little workmanlike throughout the postseason, but all of a sudden find themselves trailing Ovechkin and the Caps. Yeah,
a little bit of kind of back and forth in this series, and I have no clue what to make of it. I've talked about it a little bit. Carolina kind of doesn't they're just not glamorous. They're just kind of going about their business, but at the same time, they kind of don't have the real sizzle to kind of lure me in. So I may not tune into really much of this series, and maybe that's the way that they like it, but they're kind of quietly sneaking around. Washington feels like they have all the pressure on them. And I think maybe that's for the best for Carolina for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Also tonight, you've got Vegas going to Edmonton. The Oilers lead that one 2-1.
Unbelievable stuff on Saturday. That was a crazy game to begin with. And then Vegas scores with 0.4 of a second left in one of the wildest goals you've ever seen. We're 0.4 away from overtime. And I got that. I got UFC on the TVs, and I'm watching both. And kind of like the Jets game, the week before. I mean, my soda hit the roof. I threw my cup up. Could not believe what I saw. Vegas kind of catches a little, well, lady luck in their favor. Should have gone to overtime. And if it does go to the extra period, who knows what happens. But in the most wild set of circumstances, they get a win. They're first in the series. Maybe a little extra mojo. Maybe this turns them around. Winning in in Edmonton will still be a tall order tonight. But maybe the tide is turning for Vegas. That was unreal stuff.
Gonna have to get you something for the ceiling at your place.
I mean, Winnipeg scored a 1.6 in that game to force OT versus the Blues, and then the Golden Knights. And man, I wish I had saved this stat, but there's been like 4. I think that was the 4th time that there has been a goal scored in the third period with less than a full second remaining.
Oh, good Lord.
And like I said, everybody in the building in Edmonton, mind you, bracing for overtime. You know how that goes. Everybody's already kind of left. You don't usually leave your seats in the playoffs, but you're thinking, okay, win this face off, kill 6 seconds. I'll go ahead and beat the concession stand line. Grab me another drink before overtime. If you did that, you were stunned. And watching the crowd, I mean, pin drop is putting it lightly, or not giving it its due justice, because what is the old expression? You could hear a mouse, you know what, on cotton in that building when Edmonton falls at home. I'm going to be fascinated to see that game tonight.
And you've got a full soda and nothing to watch while you drink it. Yeah, that's a tough way to go out.
Yeah, you gotta stay and finish your drink at that point. I mean, you got to chug or throw it away. You don't really want to do either one of those. So it was a tough scene for the folks in Edmonton there Saturday.
The Thunder even their series at 2 games apiece with a 92-87 win against Denver last night. So this one goes back to OKC now, with the Thunder and the Nuggets tied at 2.
Yeah,
sounds like a pretty workmanlike performance on OKC's part.
Well, it was much needed, right? Because if they had somehow lost this game, Denver is suddenly, I don't know what to make of Denver other than they got the best player in the world at their disposal. And I guess maybe just having Jokic, who is by his standards, by Nuggets fans' standards, something's up with him in this series. He is not either healthy or not comfortable, but somehow, some way, he's just dragging them to wins. Almost pulled it off last night. I mean, it was a close enough game. Felt like Denver did what it kind of wanted to do. They got the game 1 early in OKC. They got game 3 at home a couple nights ago. And, they're kind of maybe just setting up tit for tat. And then if this thing does go 6, does go 7, maybe we're due for the Joker to kind of turn back the clock, because he has not been his usual self. He's still playing well, still best player in the world right now, but 27-13 with 4 steals yesterday. We know and we have seen him do better than that.
Well, it's tied at 2-2, so it's going all the way.
With no coach, you'll take that,
no,
right?
I'll take that back. Not necessarily. Somebody could sweep the next 2 games, but I mean, I don't feel a sweep.
No, I mean, this feels like it's 7. It feels like OKC wins at home, and it feels like Denver wins at home, and then we go back for the game 7 showdown. The MVP award, it's SGA's. They haven't officially announced when they're going to unveil it. They kind of like to make a big rah-rah at the home court if possible. So there's some talk that maybe that gets rolled out on Tuesday night when those teams meet. But if it doesn't roll out, could you imagine if they try and run that on game 7 and SGA wins the award and then loses on his home court to Jokic? I mean, this is setting up to be wild.
Or if they roll it out for game 7 and Denver's got to play in OKC with that kind of electricity in the place.
I feel like Joker would love that, though. I mean, he could win every MVP for the rest of his life, and all he wants to do is still think about Serbian horse racing and just having a good time. He's just as humble and just wildly disinterested on the surface as it appears at all times. But I feel like that would low key light a fire under him. I think this is going 7.
Wildly disinterested. I kind of like that. Here's one that's not going 7. Indiana takes a 3-1 lead over the Cavaliers with a 20-point victory yesterday, 129-109. It's not if, it's when, right?
Yeah. especially with Donovan Mitchell getting hurt, not coming back after halftime. If he were healthy, I still had a little faith in the Cavs. But, I mean, when they're down 40, I didn't have faith in them yesterday. I'll put it to you that way. But had thoughts maybe they could still, because they have not been at 100% by any means in this series. But I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's a way. But if Mitchell can't go in this next game, it's kind of the same situation, right? We're just playing whack-a-mole with injuries.
Yeah.
And it just feels like for as great of a year as they've had, it's going to be kind of a forgotten season because they seem destined to not if but when, like you said.
Man, it just feels like one of the great flameouts of certainly the NBA, if not period. I mean, it's so unfortunate. Like you said, I mean, obviously injuries matter, but goodness gracious, that's tough. It's tough to watch. Boston trying not to go down to the same fate. They are down 2-1 going into game 4 at MSG tonight against the Knicks.
Feels like Boston's got its swagger back, though. They still have. They're not at 100%, but them at 80%, 85% is still better than the Knicks. It feels like they've kind of turned a little bit of a corner, and when they are at their best, they've got the goods easily to win this series. If they snag this game tonight, it feels like a reverse sweep, you know, with New York taking 2 and then Boston rattling off 4 in a row here at this point. But stranger things have happened. If you believe in a little garden magic, tonight is your night to tune in. You know, George Robinson will be plugged to his set, you know, watching every single minute here. I don't know that the Knicks have it. Boston is favored by 6.5. Tatum seems to be coming on after kind of a little bit of a sleepwalky start to the series. It feels like the vibes, in a weird way, that matters none, but it also feels like the Celtics doing a little of this. They're kind of looking across town at the scoreboard and they're saying, hey, the Cavs, they're about to get bounced. We rally, win this series. We really got a great chance to get back and win another title. So feels like the Celtics are in good shape. To me.
The Warriors are not. Down 2-1 to Minnesota going into game 4 tonight. The Warriors are at home, but that probably makes it even worse because if Minnesota can get out of there with a win tonight going back home, that's a pretty precarious position for Steve Kerr in that bunch to be in.
Yeah, this is kind of uneasy times. Can the kind of zombie, elder statesman Warriors rally the troops? It feels like, you know, a last stand, a last hurrah for sure. If they don't win this one, yeah, it's done and dusted. We're seeing Gobert get more and more involved in this series. Anthony Edwards finally starting to assert himself a little more. And we saw Julius Randle with only the second triple-double in the history of the Timberwolves in the playoffs with 24, 10, and 12 the other night. Kind of starting to turn that corner. And, yeah, if they can avoid a loss tonight, they for sure will wrap this up in short order.
Speaking of the NBA, the teams that did not make the playoffs have a big night ahead of them tonight. The draft lottery is tonight. The bottom 14 finishers are in the mix for Cooper Flag. And, you know, we talked to Ann Kimmel about the NHL draft lottery a couple of weeks ago and how there wasn't necessarily a clear-cut number one. Well, the NBA has no such problem. Whoever gets this number one pick is taking Cooper Flag. And I've seen somewhere that it doesn't matter who the team is, he's a fit. And I guess that speaks as much to him as anything. So.
He brings a ton of versatility, especially obviously if your franchise is in need of a jolt. And everybody pretty much is. The one cool thing that will be fascinating is you can make a case for everybody that's going to be up for this lottery tonight. They're not that far away. As bad as the Wizards even were this year, you throw Flag right in the mix. Maybe not playoffs, but pretty scrappy just in year one. And then maybe year two, who knows what happens. Anybody it feels like that lands him will obviously get an upgrade. But it doesn't feel like any team is really so downtrodden that even with picking him, they're going to have to really rebuild for the next couple of years. So I'm fascinated to see how the envelope comes out tonight, whether it's a little hot or a little cool, and how the ping pong gods favor these Brave teams here tonight.
The Jazz, the Wizards, and the Hornets have the best chances for the number one pick. So we'll see if one of them actually does come through. I'm sure the Hornets, particularly with Flagg having played his college ball right there at Duke, would love to be able to kind of capitalize on that connection and get the number one to go with Brandon Miller from Cane Ridge and a couple of other pieces that they've already got in place over there. So, maybe the Hornets can have some luck. We'll see how it plays out. Portal news. We've not had any in a few days. So Vanderbilt appears to have picked up a 7th player out of the transfer portal. Former Oklahoma guard Duke Miles has announced that he will be signing with the Commodores for the 25-26 season. Now, you probably need to put an asterisk on that until Mr. Miles gets on campus, because this would be his 3rd commitment since the Sooners season ended. He initially announced his intentions to attend Virginia in early April, decommitted 4 days afterward, committed to Buckyball out at Texas A&M on the 22nd of April. He stuck around there a little longer, went back into the portal on May 2nd. So if Coach Byington can hang on to Duke Miles, then I guess that would be a get, because he was 3rd in scoring for Oklahoma this past year with 9.5 points a game. Also had 2.5 rebounds and 2 assists. So this would be his 6th season at the collegiate level. Played 3 years at Troy, played a year at High Point, and played the past year with the Sooners. So the well-traveled, the aptly named Duke Miles, I guess. So we'll see how that goes. Keep an eye out for Duke Miles coming to a gym near you. The Titans over the weekend, or I guess earlier today, more specifically, more accurately, signed a receiver out of the rookie mini camp that took place this weekend. And it's a familiar name to some area high school football followers. Former Independence High School receiver TJ Sheffield was in mini camp this weekend with the Titans and apparently made enough of an impression that they signed him. Played this past season at UConn, caught 54 passes for 505 yards and 3 touchdowns this fall. He had previously played at Purdue. Over 59 career college games, 172 receptions, 714 yards, 14 touchdowns. So trying to make an impression and make the roster out there at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Becomes, I guess, the 3rd local receiver out there, along with Van Jefferson from Ravenwood and the kid from Wilson Central, who I had his name and I just lost it, sat out most of last year with a knee injury. Played at Martin.
Colton Dow?
Yes.
Yep.
So, interesting. Wishing TJ luck. Good dude. We'll see how that goes. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today as we continue the Monday Mirror. When we come back, we'll be joined by Willie G. Ramirez talking a little WNBA. Their season opens up this weekend. Stick around.
Get Get ready, race fans. NASCAR is back in Music City with a new name, the Cracker Barrel 400. Guitars, fast cars, and the comfort of Cracker Barrel's country hospitality. May 30th through June 1st. The action kicks off Friday night at Nashville Superspeedway with the Rackley Roofing 200. Then the Tennessee Lottery 250 on Saturday. And Sunday night, NASCAR's top stars under the lights in the Cracker Barrel 400. Get your tickets now at NashvilleSuperspeedway.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
The Monday Mirror continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and we are joined now by Willie G. Ramirez out of Las Vegas. He has a website, wgramirez.com, where you can keep up with the WNBA, boxing, with a plethora of different sporting topics. And we are going to tap into his WNBA knowledge right now. But Willie, what's up, man?
How are you guys? How's everything going?
It's going well, man. We appreciate you taking some time with us. We are, 4 sleeps away from WNBA regular season play.
Crazy.
I know a lot of folks have got to be excited about that. Yeah. What have you seen over the preseason here that has you particularly excited about this upcoming season?
I really kind of intrigued to see once the regular season gets underway is how a lot of these rookies have blended so quickly into their rosters. And I obviously want to see the Dallas Wings with Paige Beckers and her teaming with Enrique and Gumbawale and what they have going there, but widespread. There's just it seems as if there's a lot of anxiousness, throughout the league, beyond the Liberty, beyond the Lynx, beyond the Aces. I mean, there's a lot of energy and a lot of excitement with the Seattle Storm, this new look Seattle Storm. There's obviously an excitement with the new look in the Indiana Fever and what they have going. The Phoenix Mercury are an entirely different dynamic post Diana Taurasi and, of course, Brittany Griner, who's now in Atlanta. So there's just so many. The thing is, there's really so many storylines. I feel like last year we were stuck on the storyline of would the Aces three-peat and Caitlin Clark. There really wasn't much more until the Lynx started proving a lot of people wrong and building their way up a lot of power rankings. And I felt as if that stole the show. Every time we turned around, we were talking about Caitlin Clark and the slowly, momentum building Lynx, the Commissioner's Cup, the Liberty, the Aces, and it really circled around that. This year, I think that there are so many storylines that you could talk about, so many different people in so many different new areas that's really what I want to see. Who's going to grab hold of the headlines right off the bat? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be the New York Liberty, the defending champs, who now have Natasha Cloud in town? Courtney Vandersloot's gone. She's back in Chicago. And Chicago's obviously with a different look now with Tyler Marsh as the coach and Kia Nurse in town to sort of bring some mentorship and leadership to the likes of Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso, and Haley Van Lith. Again, I mentioned Brittany Griner down in Atlanta, joining Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard. So, I mean, you could go team by team. I think there are some teams that have already been plagued with some injuries, and they're going to have some rough go of it. But, yeah, so, storylines are abound.
I've been fascinated. I saw a couple of clips of Brittany Griner putting up and knocking down threes for Atlanta, and I don't know that I've necessarily noticed that being a part of her repertoire in Phoenix. I mean, has she found a secret weapon, so to speak, and how does that bode for Atlanta if that's a part of what they do with Carl Semesco over there?
Well, I think in a sense, I mean, he was down at in Florida Gulf, and he coached Kirsten Bell, who's here in with the Vegas Aces. So it could be part of the system. I don't. Maybe it's part of an arsenal that we've never seen tapped into with Brittany Griner. It's funny because somebody asked Asia this past week at Media Day. Last year we saw her tap into her 3-point range, and she started firing. What's something new that we were going to see from her? I don't think that there's anything that we haven't seen from Asia, and it's just going to be more domination because we've seen every aspect of her game improve. So I just think with Brittany Griner, I think after playing in the Olympics, I think with going to having a new scenery, which is something that she kind of hoped for. I think we're just going to see. Remember, you're playing with someone like Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard. They're going to bring out all aspects of your game. So I do think that, I don't know if it's something new. I don't know if it's something that she wasn't willing to do in the past and that we just didn't see it becoming prevalent. Maybe it's just being put out there because it's a preseason game. But I'm pretty sure that that's something that Brittany Griner has been able to do, and maybe it'll be asked of her more under Smesco, considering the type of style that he does.
Willie, kind of as I'm glancing through, found some power rankings. This is on The Athletic, and immediately I'm looking, and I kind of want to just get your take. Let's start. I don't want to call them irrelevant, but who are some teams that we maybe can scratch off right off the jump? And then kind of in that same vein, I found it interesting, at least according to this set of power rankings, Golden State ahead of a couple teams despite not yet playing a game. I'm curious kind of where we start at the bottom and then maybe work our way up.
Well, I some of the power ranks that I've seen, and mine are going to come out in a couple of days. I'll have my first set, and I'm also going to do a 13 things to watch, and it'll be, something from each team. One of the teams I think that could struggle is the Washington Mystics. I know they got Kiki Iriathan, there, and they have some returning players, but they've also suffered some injuries. I'm not sure about the new regime. I'm not sure how, if the chemistry is in place just yet. I don't know what to expect from the Washington Mystics. I'm also intrigued by seeing how good the Connecticut Sun could be. They brought in Tina Charles. I do like the fact that they got JC. I think JC Sheldon is a star in the making, that she was with Dallas and now she's up there. So I want to see those two teams. Golden State's going to go through their lumps, and I think one of the things that stands out is what Natalie Nakasi said, in that, hey, we don't have an identity and we're not necessarily looking for one right now. We're just trying to be us, and they've accepted who they are in terms of being an expansion team and with what comes with it. So those are the three teams that I probably would place at the bottom of the league right now. In what order, I couldn't tell you. Mm-hmm. I am surprised at where people are putting the LA Sparks, because I don't know if it's fair to throw them in the bottom third of the league. The problem is where to place all these teams, because I think there's so many teams that got better, including the Sparks. The Sparks got better because they're getting a healthy Cameron Brink back, and the Sparks got better because they have Kelsey Plum. Lasia Clarendon retired, but I think Kelsey Plum is a step up, in the backcourt. She joins her former Aces teammate, De'Erica Hamby. You also have Rickea Jackson. And you have some key components that can do the right things. Lexi Brown's gone. She's now in Seattle. But I think the Sparks are going to be a dangerous team. I don't know about placing them so low. Dallas, as much of a star power as they have, I want to see what they can do under new leadership. It's a first-year coach, Now, he is a defensive specialist, and you have offensive stars. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on is how that chemistry is built and how they try to sort of muster up the offense with the defensive-minded coach. When you have someone like Paige Beckers, when you have someone like Erika Gubawale, you know, and Alyssa Smith is there, and you have Dejanay Carrington. So you have some defensive components, but again, that's an offensive team you're going to want to let loose. So some teams at the bottom, I would say Washington, Connecticut, Golden State. Then where is everyone going to place the next three? Chicago, Dallas, and LA. And does Atlanta or Phoenix drop in with that mix? So that's where I'm looking the bottom half.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned the Mystics and the injuries that they've had, because one of them was to the point guard out of Kentucky, Georgia Amore, who had started at Virginia Tech before transferring over there with Kenny Brooks. How much of an impact were you expecting her to make with this team, or did you have a feel for that?
Well, it was going to take the preseason and the first week of the regular season to really get a vibe for it. I think with Washington, anybody was going to have an impact on that team because I just felt it. Not that I don't want to use the word disarray because it's unfair and it makes them seem unstable and it puts it on the personnel. I just think that Washington was a team that could only go up from where it was. So with losses to injuries, it doesn't help, right? So I think that she would have had an impact. It's a matter of how much. And it's a matter of everybody else fitting in. It's a matter of how much Kiki Iriafen is going to be is expected of her, you know, right off the bat as a rookie. So I think the loss hurts. It's a matter of how much her presence would have impacted, and we won't know that now.
Willie G. Ramirez joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little WNBA. Willie, I know that she's back in a familiar spot for her, but I'm really kind of struggling a little bit to grasp Alicia Clark not being with the Aces and being back with the Storm again. What are the ramifications for both those teams of the former MTSU standouts move this offseason?
Well, I think Alicia Clark's in a great spot. I think the Seattle Storm are going to be one of the teams that sort of have a chip on their shoulder. They got whatever was going on. I can tell you this. Last year during Media Day, every other question to one of the newcomers or one of the whoever was there was, we heard the phrase, this is Jewel Lloyd's team. We get it. We understand. We know that. We just know that Nneka Ogwumike and Skylar Diggins-Smith, who's now referred to as Skylar Diggins, that they're coming in to blend some experience and they're veterans and they're here to contribute, but it's Jewel's team. It was always it's Jewel's team. Well, I also noticed from some of the other players that have been there for a certain amount of time that phrase may have worn a little thin, that they were there also. So Jewel understood her role, but whatever there was going on behind the scenes, whether there was a little bit of tension, little dissension, whatever it was, plus the offseason bullying allegation, Jewel's gone. And so is the tension and any sort of stress. And I'm not saying it was Jewel's fault. It's just, after X amount of years in one city, the personalities can clash. So I think that there's a good mix there. And by adding someone like Alicia Clark, who can really come in and fix a locker room with her voice, with her reasoning, with her experience, she blends in perfectly with the likes of Nneka Ogwumike and Skylar Diggins, plus what you have with Lexi Brown. I mean, the inclusion of what you brought in for that roster, my only wish is that Nika Mule could have been a part of this, but instead she has to sit back and watch after tearing up her knee in the overseas in the offseason. So I love what Noelle Quinn's put together. I know that they're excited. I know that the energy level's up, and I know that there's a chip on their shoulder. So Seattle, I do expect Alicia Clark to have a major, major role with that team. As for Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Aces, everybody is on alert because from what I heard at Media Day, this team 100%, the new phrase is, I give you two of them, and one of them has a hidden message. We'll see if you guys can figure it out. From Becky Hammond. We're tired of being hungry. This is a team that's starving. So last year's loss has put this team in a new category. Becky Hammond also said, we kept hearing last year about the dogs. This one's a dog, that one's a dog. I don't want any dogs. I want wolves. Well, there was only one person on that old roster that was referred to realistically as a dog and had the entire Michelob Ultra Arena barking like a dog, and we know who that was.
She ain't there no more.
She ain't there no more. She's in Los Angeles. And when she said that, we all sort of looked at each other and said, that's a personal message. That's a jab. That's either a jab or just like Jules gone from Seattle and there's a breath of fresh air from whatever took place. Doesn't mean it was on Jewel. Kelsey Plum is now in Los Angeles. There's whatever that meant. And I think she left on good terms. It was just time for a change. I've said this time and time again. Kelsey Plum won championships here. Kelsey Plum became a part of this community. But let's not forget some of the negative vibes that Kelsey Plum had thrust upon her. She had a rough relationship with Bill Laimbeer. He was hard on her, like a coach is supposed to be, but there were times where we all sort of went, wow, he's being a little rough. He benched her and made her a reserve one year where she won 6th Player of the Year. Kelsey Plum is nobody's bench player, believe me. She also got married and divorced in Las Vegas. She also tore her Achilles heel in Las Vegas. So there were a lot of, mental health issues that took place caused by her persona in Las Vegas. Being in Los Angeles is now a breath of fresh air, an hour and a half away from her hometown, back in SoCal. So I think it's good for all parties involved. I think Jewel coming to Vegas is great for Vegas. With Kelsey going to LA is great for Kelsey. Alicia Clark going to Seattle is good for Seattle. Everybody's in a great place for their mental health, which is very important, and it can translate into positive things on the court.
Willie, where do teams like Chicago and Indiana fit in all this in your mind?
Well, Indiana is clearly going to start off as one of the favorites and one of the fan favorites, but I think the bookmakers have made them one of the favorites, obviously, with everybody that they brought in. I think Chicago is the one team that's going to be the surprise team because of how well they're going to do. I believe in Tyler Marsh. I know Tyler Marsh, and I love the additions of Courtney Vandersloot and Kia Nurse in particular, because I think they bring stability and voice in the locker room to sort of calm things down. I love that Haley Van Lith is reteamed with Angel Reese. And I think that Angel Reese has, Angel Reese is who Angel Reese is. It's a matter of Tyler Marsh being a calming figure and being able to talk to her when, if it's a media, if it's her play, if it's physicality, whatever it may be. I just think that they're in a good place, and I'm intrigued to see what they can do. I believe in them, and I think that they can be a positive surprise and shock some people a little bit by staying in the upper half of the WNBA.
What do you like about Caitlin Clark in year 2?
Well, I like the fact that she's put some muscle on, and I think that she's used to the physicality. I also the one thing that I have to see that I didn't see last year and I want to see this year, until Kate, I'm yet to say that she's the best player in the WNBA, and I will argue. And of course, I will get yelled at and be called a Caitlin Clark hater, which I'm not. But until I see her play defense, she's not on anybody's all-defensive team, and she's certainly not making first, second, third team. She's just not a defensive player. So until she adds that to her repertoire, if it's how much it's needed, but she needs to play a little bit better defensively. What I do think is that she's going to be used to the physical play. She's not going to stand for it. She's got Sophie Cunningham. I'm hoping Sophie's injury from the preseason game is not serious. She's got Sydney Colson there as a voice of reason in the locker room. She's got, some added figures. She's got DeWanna Bonner, who's going to stick up for her. Nobody's going to push DeWanna Bonner around. So I like the components that are around her now to add a little bit of confidence in her, and also not let her get pushed around. And I don't think she got pushed around last year. She never backed down from anybody. But the muscle she's put on, she's going to be able to sort of withstand her ground. And I expect great things. What I do think overall from everybody is that Stephanie White is going to bring that roster together and bring it together a little quicker than Christy Sides was able to do. And I also think that the beginning of the season is going to be a lot simpler for the Indiana Fever. If you remember, they played 11 games in 20 days across, the entire country, back and forth. Like the exact numbers escape me, but So I think that that's in their favor as well. Is the schedule makers did them a little bit of a favor, and now that's going to fall on Paige Beckers as far as the media spotlight and doing the traveling and being pulled at it every direction for media stuff. So I think that Caitlin Clark is going to be just fine.
Liberty and Lynx were in last year's finals. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction, but we've not talked a whole lot about either of those teams here in the last little bit. What are your thoughts on them?
Well, I think that the New York Liberty are the number one team in the league until someone dethrones them. They will be the number one team in my power rankings because they're the defending champions. And they lost Courtney Vandersloot, who, I love Sloot, and she's a great point guard. But they got Natasha Cloud, who's a defensive wizard, and she can make things happen. We saw she won a championship in Washington with the Mystics. So, I think that the New York Liberty are just as dangerous as they were last year. They're the defending champs. And I think Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu and Jonquel Jones, and they're coming back for more. And I think Sandy Brondello, is a great coach. So nothing different there. I think the Minnesota Lynx this year are last year's New York Liberty, that they're coming in with the chip on their shoulder because of how they lost. And let's not forget how they lost in Game 5 with a bat, with I think what we all saw could be a very questionable call that put Brianna Stewart on the line. So I think Nafisa Collier is, I think Asia Wilson, when she wants to take over the league, the game, whatever it is, Asia Wilson's the face of the league, and she can be the most dominant player in this league. But I think Nafisa Collier is right there. And if Minnesota comes in the way that I think they're going to come in with the same sort of attitude that they did at the beginning of last year, where everybody had them ranked in the middle of the league, 6th, 7th, and Cheryl Reeve, she fires that team up. She said last year at the beginning of the season, I know in training camp what this team is capable of. It's then when I see what this team wants to do. So I can't wait for the first Zoom to get on with to talk to Cheryl about it. But I think they're both, I think right now the top 3 teams are the same top 3 teams that we had last year, and that's New York, Minnesota, and Las Vegas. From there, it's a crapshoot, and I'm not going to reveal anything further. You're going to have to come to WG Ramirez. My first set of power rankings. I usually release them on Monday, and I probably will from this point forward, but they did not come out today. I'm actually preparing a speech on the keynote speaker at a local high school that does their own annual ESPY Awards. So I am the keynote speaker at the end of the award show talking sports and mental health. So I've been really entrenched in that, but I will have my first set of power rankings this week. And then from there forward, likely coming out every Monday.
Well, kudos to the high school that's got you as a keynote speaker.
Yeah.
They did a hell of a job in that selection, and I'm sure that you're going to make it pay off for them. And ladies and gentlemen, they call that a tease. Go to WGRamirez.com later this week for Willie's opening season power rankings in the WNBA. Willie, we appreciate you taking some time with us. Get back to work polishing up that speech, and we will be checking in with you here soon.
I appreciate it, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, Willie.
Thanks, you too. Let's take a break here on the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will get into everything that we missed from the weekend. Stick around.
Joseph Burgoyne, Chef Tornado of the Omni Nashville Hotel. Come see us at Kitchen Notes.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
It's the final segment of the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And depending on your perspective, either Tennessee dropped 2 of 3 to Vanderbilt over the weekend, or Vanderbilt took 2 of 3 from Tennessee over the weekend. The Volunteers with a 3-2 win in Friday's matchup, before losing 10-6 on Saturday and 7-5 in a pretty much a seesaw event yesterday afternoon that stretched into last night. Yeah. So Vanderbilt getting 2 of 3, and in a lot of folks' eyes, kind of solidifying the national seed, regardless of what happens this final weekend. I think they've got Kentucky. Tennessee obviously goes to Arkansas, and the climb is an uphill one for a Vols team that, again, has lost, 5 of their last 6 series now, I believe? It's not been pretty.
Hadn't been good. And I know Chris Lee joined us Friday and kind of said that maybe more pressure on Tennessee, but I felt like, in a way, Vanderbilt stood to gain more from this series than Tennessee did to lose. Vols fans may kind of disagree, but I feel like Tennessee, whether intentionally or not, is kind of just sitting back and saying, well, we're going to see what happens in the postseason. We'll either pull it together or we won't. Vanderbilt, meanwhile, they kind of need to scrap. They kind of need to claw. And without watching much except for yesterday prior to the rain delay, they kind of had a little more sense of urgency, it felt like, over the course of the series, winning the 2 out of the 3. But it just felt like coming into that one, they could gain a little bit more. Tennessee's still going to be in about the same spot they were last week, other than social media being ablaze, of course. But other than that, they're kind of okay. But it felt like Vanderbilt kind of stood up and kind of, they can kind of look around the rest of the SEC and saying, hey, we're right there with you guys.
They are right there with them. In fact, right now, Vanderbilt is in play for the double bye in the new tournament bracket setup. They are tied with Georgia for 4th place at 16-11 with this series coming up this weekend. Texas, Arkansas, and LSU are your top 3 teams in the standings. Of course, as Jim Derry made us aware earlier in the show, the Tigers number 1 in the country, but they're 17-10 in conference play. Again, Texas atop the standings, Arkansas number 2, and LSU 3rd. So I say all that to say that Vanderbilt has played their way into a pretty good position heading into this final weekend of the season. Tennessee and Alabama are tied for 7th, and I slightly misspoke. Vanderbilt, Georgia, and Auburn are all 16-11. They are all tied for 4th. So, again, depending on how things come out this weekend, but they got to do some scoreboard watching as well. And, I think you probably just said it right, Wade. I think Tennessee is probably just, playing to try to get to the postseason and see what happens at this point. And Chris has kind of said it or kind of hinted at it. Most of these teams in the Southeastern Conference, if they can just survive the SEC tournament, get to the NCAAs, see some new faces, they're probably going to be a lot better off.
Yeah, that's the name of the game, right? Is, get through the season, improve your seeding as much as you can, unless, you're one of those elite teams. Mm-hmm. And by setting yourself up for a home regional, certainly, trying to put yourself in the mix for a super regional at home, that's kind of your real goal outside of straight up winning the conference. But, obviously you can make a pretty compelling argument to Tennessee's point here. winning the conference don't mean a lot for programs that are now expecting national championships. Yeah, that's great and everything. But kind of, if you could put yourself in that position to see those new teams and in theory dominate, if the numbers kind of hold serve, you should not run into too much resistance until maybe a regional championship game. And then, we'll see what happens in the supers. I feel like everybody, I'm not going to be surprised if any of these teams make a deep run. We will lose some along the way, of course, but it feels like we're set up for a great postseason.
Yeah, we'll lose some along the way just because numbers, somebody's got to lose, but it'll be interesting, one, to see how many they do get in and how well the committee is able to keep them apart. As we, you remember we talked during the men's basketball tournament and some of the seeding criteria really worked, in favor of or against some folks just because of the way you have to keep teams from the same conference kind of spread out. So it's going to be a real challenge for this committee, I think. One other thing that we talked about when we had Chris Lee on Friday was Missouri winless in SEC play and just how bad they were and whether Carrick Jackson was ultimately in any danger. All the Tigers do is go to College Station and come out of there with 3 wins, 9-6 on Friday night, 4-1 on Saturday, 10-1 in the finale on Sunday. Missouri sweeps A&M in College Station. Wade, I know that you are more inclined to put a couple of dollars down on somebody than I am, but I don't think anybody had Missouri sweeping A&M on the road.
No, that was not even even Vegas wasn't prepared to offer that. That's like winning a lottery ticket because a team that was so hapless, as we said on Friday. I asked Chris, I said, how have they not won one by accident? I don't know. You can't win 3 by accident, certainly in the same weekend. So whatever it was that was working for them. We've talked about the struggles of Texas A&M, but there have been times in the last month where they've played a lot better. So I don't know what the heck happened. That will be maybe a case study for years to come. What the heck happened that weekend?
I can't imagine the message boards and the socials down in Aggie land. They got to be thinking the sky's falling for real. That's crazy.
Right, and there's major consequences, for Texas A&M. I mean, it'd be one thing if they were right there with Missouri in terms of the standings, and it's like, oh, well, we shouldn't have lost to these. We're bad, but not that bad. I mean, we're talking about a team, that was in the national championship series, and just when you thought you could trust them, maybe not.
Yeah. Missouri finishes up against Mississippi State, which, by the way, I think took 2 of 3 from Ole Miss this weekend as well. So it's getting interesting at the bottom of the standings these days as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. Nashville Soccer Club evened its season series against the Charlotte Football Club with a 2-1 decision on Saturday over at Geodis Park. Mukhtar and Schaffelberg getting the 2 goals for the boys in gold. Again, a 2-1 final, reversing the result over at Charlotte in early April as CFC won that one 2-1. NSC improving to 6-2-4. That's 6 wins, 2 draws, and 4 losses. With that win, Charlotte goes to 6-1-5. Nice 3 points for NSC, I guess.
Yeah, quality win. We saw Mukhtar kind of getting back to his old ways. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't, if you're trying to defend between him and Surge these days. And we didn't get the old vintage MVP level, Honey Mukhtar, but we certainly saw what he's capable of doing. And that is a good win for Nashville. They moved to 5-1-1 at home. They're right there with tied for the best home record in the league. So things kind of starting to come into form. They've lost a point here. They've lost a point here and there, but playing very well. That's a good win for them this weekend.
Not so good.
Hey, and real quick, I meant to close, but Todos Unidos, the old school NSC fans will know what we're talking about, but we're thinking about you guys this weekend. A lot of consternation on the socials.
Yes, there we go. Well said. Well put. The Cats went on the road this weekend and took it on the chin, but I think they got to be pleased that they didn't give up 100 points to the Albany Firebirds, because I think in their previous outing, that's what Albany did. Either their previous one or the one before that, they scored 100 on somebody here pretty recently. Only 71 against the Cats in a 16-point loss, 71-55. The Firebirds defeat the Cats, sweeping the season series after winning at Municipal in late March, 42-34. So, Cats fall to 3-3 with that loss. Had a 3-game win streak snapped. Not sure when they play again. I assume it's this weekend, but you know what happens when you assume. So, let me see if I can figure that out.
The one thing is, I'm going to go ahead and just throw this out there. Coaching staff better be careful. You got Jeff Fisher lurking around the chicken coop. You got John Gruden lurking around the chicken coop. Just be careful. Gruden would love, it would be nothing more. You want to talk about getting some instant eyeballs? Let Gruden strap on a arena headset, and I'll even tune in for that. I might even show up at Municipal for a game.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Absolutely. Let's see. The Cats are off. Well, okay. So I'm looking at the Cats website, and after their May 10th game against Albany, it says that they play on June 1st against the Corpus Christi Tritons. That's on a list of games and events on NashvilleCats.com/events. But when I go to Cats calendar, it shows a game, not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday against the Oregon Lightning. So, buyer beware. I don't know what to tell you in terms of when or who or where the Cats play again.
It's kind of like during our rundown. We try and tell everybody, hey, if you're thinking about going, double check.
Double check.
Make sure before you drop some coin to go down to Municipal, or think about a road trip even. Yeah, just double check. Kind of like we tell you guys.
Yeah, before you go driving off somewhere, double check, because they may or may not be there.
I do know Municipal's got like 7 high school graduations in the next 2 weeks or something. So that may or may not have something to do with it, as that place gets kind of packed out.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, this says that the Oregon Lightning come to Municipal for a May 24th game at 5 o'clock. So maybe they're at home on May 24th. Maybe they're at home June 1st. Maybe they're at home both. I don't know. But buyer beware is what I will tell you. So, wait, did you see where the jockey for Sovereignty got fined?
No. What did my man do?
He went to the whip a bit more than is legal, which I didn't realize that was a thing, but apparently it is. Junior Alvarado, the jockey who rode Kentucky Derby winner Sovereignty, was fined $62,000 after ruling he had whipped his horse too many times. Alvarado whipped Sovereignty 2 more times than the 6-strike limit.
I know you get caught up in the moment, but man, you got to, if it's 6, I mean, that's a low enough number. You should, all right, 1, 2.
1, 2.
Yeah. I mean, it paid off, I guess, in a sense, but maybe not.
Maybe not. It's paid off $62,000 less than he thought it did. That's going to do it for the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Join us right back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We'll see you then.